Brothers and sisters, we've all turned up the radio to hear Brother Jimmy Lakey, from coast to coast and shore to shore. Now raise your voice, oh let us all, Jimmy Lakey, get out of bed, Jimmy Lakey, raise your voice, Jimmy Lakey, Lakey, hey, can't live without it with Jimmy Lakey, Jimmy Lakey.
Well, top of the morning to you, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Feels like a Monday because it is a Monday for most of us. Took off for the Labor Day, but here we are back together again. Second day of September, year of our Lord 2025. Good to have you here. Lakey in the morning. Good to have you here. Ray's checking in bright and early from the YouTube on the screen. Morning, Jimmy from the Democratic Socialist People's State of Oregon, the little sister of California. Ray, I think you're also a relative of the socialist state of Colorado as well. So, Ray, welcome to the program. Good to have you here. Ray's got the hang of it. He's watching on the YouTube. You can see by the logo, wherever you're watching, check in. Tell us, Heidi Ho, neighbor. Good to have you here on the show. Jim checks in from Fort Collins this morning. Carno Tuesday's coming up. It's a big-time program, and, of course, yesterday we were off, and Friday we were off, and so everybody's kind of getting the notification, get back in the swing of the Lakey thing bright and early on a Tuesday morning. Habits break. We spend 4 days breaking your habits of being here, so we'll get everybody, the gang back together here momentarily as people's notifications are going off across America, saying tune back into the Lakey program, Lakey Unleashed. Stacy checks in from the state of Texas. Good morning from the motherland, Texas. Good morning to Texas, everybody. Our Lois checking in East Texas. Our Texas contingency is there. Do we have any men in Texas that listen? We got all these females that listen to the program in Texas. Hear from them, email, chat room, etc. Any men in Texas, or have the men been subdued and by the women out there? Rich says, good morning from Missouri. Survived the end of the season mass exodus out of the Lake of the Ozarks yesterday. All the weekenders are gone home, so bye-bye. Rich got his state back. All right, good to have you here. A couple of topics I do want to get to. We'll talk to private investigator Niels Gravilius in just a bit this morning. I'm going to talk about these trans shooters, including the transgender shooter in Minnesota last week. We'll talk about that. I've got the story of illegal aliens have decided, well, maybe we're heading up towards America. We're going to head back and self-deporting and or U-turning themselves. That's a good thing. Big fat Jerry Nadler. He's a congressman. You might recall who Jerry Nadler is. Jerry Nadler has said he's going to retire. He's not going to run for re-election. We'll get to that story. Also have a story about Representative Ilhan Omar. Old Ilhan Omar, she's part of the squad, married her cousin or brother or something. Remember that whole story? Well, Elon's getting rich. You say, what's Elon doing? Ilhan Omar is getting banking bank in Congress. We'll talk about that here in just a bit. Also, there was a whistleblower back in the Biden administration going, hey, this Russia thing is a hoax. The Biden administration ignored the whistleblower. Donald Trump's threatening the city of Chicago and saying, we're going to send the Popo in there, the National Guard, to clean up your city. There's polling and interviews out there, people in Chicago saying, please send in the National Guard, help us out. But I'm going to ask you, this is probably a serious topic for maybe not today, maybe another day. Are you for or against sending the National Guard and or some kind of a pseudo-military presence into these cities? Now, Washington, D.C. is an exception. That is a federal city that is under the purview of the president and the Congress, and you can do that. I do have a little bit of trepidation when it comes to just sending them into Chicago, Illinois, or what have you, without the permission of the government and or the governor and or the request. I know that crime is bad in these hellhole places, but sometimes you get what you vote for, and these people have voted for Democrats, and if you're getting shot on the street, you voted for it in a sense. If big fat Jerry Pritzker, J.B. Pritzker, I'm sorry, that's Jerry Nadler and J.B. Pritzker, if they won't get the National Guard in there to help you, then I'm sorry, they won't do it. Because here's what I look at. You've got to be careful. And again, I'm not we talk more about this policy. You got to be a little bit careful in sending in the National Guard. President Trump says he's thinking of sending it to Chicago, LA, etc. The Constitution strictly forbids the government using the military for law enforcement, because military is used to kill things. Military is used to blow things up things. That's a whole different thing than police keeping and or law enforcement. And if you like President Trump using law enforcement in these big cities to clean up the crime, well, are you going to like it whenever another president decides they're going to declare a state of emergency, maybe a climate emergency, and they're going to send the military or the National Guard into a city to make sure that you're not burning a gas-guzzling vehicle, or make sure you're not drinking from a plastic straw? And so I think you have to be very careful about endorsing the use of military in these cities. And if J.B. Pritzker wants his constituents in Chicago and the mayor of Chicago want these human sacrifices to be made at the end of a gun by gangbangers, and I hate to say it, but I don't know exactly if I'm all for sending in the National Guard into Chicago, as awful as it may be, because even though I trust this president to have the right things in mind for the country, I'm not sure I trust the next president. If there's ever a president, Mike Obama, or there's ever a president, Kinkles Clinton, or some president from the left, I would hate to think that they would also use precedent and say, well, if Donald Trump can declare an emergency on immigration and crime, that I'm going to declare emergency on this, and therefore I'll use the military at my behest. So your overall thoughts on that? It's a bigger discussion, overarching topic, I know, but something to contemplate and consider. That if President Trump comes out and announces he's going to send law enforcement into Chicago, before you give him a rousing round of applause, you might want to ask yourself, would you be okay if someone that's not of your political persuasion used the same, quote, declaration of emergency to use the military at his or her behest for a different topic that maybe is not your topic, but it's their topic? So we can discuss that along the way as well. All right, coming up on the program, Private Detective Niels Gravilius is going to be with us. I'm going to talk about the profiles and the information about these trans shooters, and whether or not we need to be paying attention to these violent stem of events that be happening by trans, whether it's blowing up Tesla dealerships or shooting up a school in Nashville and or Minneapolis. So we'll talk more about that with Niels Gravilius in just a couple of moments. Laura Carno joins us on the program today for Carno Tuesday, and also Sherry Cree, our great realtor sponsor, are going to be on the program a little bit later as well. So everybody stand by. Niels Gravilius joins us in just a few moments. He'll be on the program, and we look forward to the conversation with him in just under 5 minutes away. I have a question of the day. You ready for this? My question of the day is this. I just was traveling. As you know, we had to take Friday off, and of course, yesterday was Labor Day. And I was traveling for the behest of my son, who was injured playing some college football. And he missed a season or so with an ACL and LCL injury on one knee. And just heading into the season, his other ACL decided it wanted some attention. So my 20-year-old son had his surgery on Friday. I flew out on Thursday. I was with him. He hung out at my hotel room with me, just relaxed there, and I made sure he had food and made sure he had his proper pain medicine and let him rest up before heading back into classes today. So that's where I was at. And I had a couple of pet peeves that popped up into my head, and I felt kind of like the old cranky guy, get off my lawn. But I'm telling you, I have some pet peeves. And our question of the day is, it's real simple. What are your pet peeves? It is an open forum, something that really just annoys the crap out of you. I'll give you one for me. If you are using your cell phone device ever, and I'm going to pull mine out of my pocket as I'm here. If you're ever using your cell phone device, as you can see, I have my cell phone device. If you're using that cell phone device to listen to something, and you're not listening through headphones, but you're listening through the speaker so all the public can hear, you should be punched in the throat and have your phone removed from you forever. If you don't have headphones in a public setting, don't listen to your Instagram. Don't listen to the Facebook reel that you got. Don't listen to your TikTok. Stop it. That is a pet peeve of mine, and I'm starting to think I should start carrying around an extra set of headphones that turn the damn thing down. We don't want to hear it. And, I've been guilty at times, like 10-second voicemail. I'll put it up to my ear or a little something. but in an ongoing, just perpetuity, playing sounds off your phone in a public setting, if you don't have your headphones, keep your phone volume down. The same way on an airplane. The airplanes usually will try to police this, but you just need to have headphones on an airplane. You don't just play the speakers on your phone, whether it's a 30-second reel or whether it's a 2-hour movie. We don't want to hear it. There's a pet peeve that I have, that if you are a grown-ass adult and or someone mature enough to have a cell phone, and you were playing audio of any type off that cell phone for a prolonged period of time, and I'm talking more than 15, 20 seconds, and on a rarity of 15 or 20 seconds, if you are using your phone to play volume and you don't have headphones, you should, again, I will say, be punched in the throat, and then you should have your cell phone taken away from you, and you should go back to a flip phone for the rest of your life. That is your punishment for not using headphones. That's my first pet peeve. Okay, you get the idea. This is Pet Peeve Tuesday, and I've got another pet peeve I'd like to share with you. Staying with my son, and him staying with me, and giving him a kind of a place to relax and away from the rest of the team. As after he had the ACL surgery, we stayed in a hotel. And the hotel was one of those travel type hotels, a Courtyard by Marriott. Okay, Courtyard by Marriott. Not a lot of the Ritz-Carlton was booked. Actually, it was 50 miles away. So anyway, the Courtyard by Marriott. You can still get Marriott points out of Ritz-Carlton. I'm just letting you know. But I get my Marriott points, so we're staying there. And if you've ever had a kid or a grandchild that does traveling, I know producer Chad had a daughter that did traveling hockey. My son, for about a year and a half, did traveling 7-on-7 football. And so you hit these hotels. There's usually the Hampton Inn, the Courtyard, the Garden Inn, those types of travel type business hotels that on the weekends sometimes fill up with kids playing sports. They play their sports. Well, my son was a football player, 7-on-7 football, and those kids went to bed early. They were 15, 16, 17 years old, and that was a team, and they all went to bed early, and the parents would sit down, usually the dads would sit down and have a beverage or two, because it was boys football, so the dads traveled mostly prolifically with their sons when possible. Well, this weekend, I happened to be, for 4 nights, I happened to be at this hotel, and it was right off the Interstate 70 in the Missouri area. And there was a girls that looked like a soccer team that was staying there for a night or two. I don't know if it was I don't know. There was a bunch of soccer kids there at the hotel. And I was surprised how often every night the kids, the girls, and their little brothers and sisters were running up and down the hallway in full view of their parents and adults, causing a ruckus, playing hide and seek and freeze tag in the hallways. I looked up at one point. I was having a fine cigar next to a fire pit that happened to be out back, and my son was resting and on pain meds, so I'm smoking a cigar outside, and I could see in the glass of the lobby, and children are running up and down the couches and the sofas and the sectionals and jumping off, and their parents, these drunk, worthless parents, probably should have their kids extracted from their home and be better to be raised by animals than these beasts of parents were letting their kids run amok. The poor hotel staff was going crazy, going, I got people calling the front desk, and I got these dumbass parents that are weak-ass, pussified parents that won't tell their little shavers no. Listen, pet peeve number 2. If you are traveling with your children, teach your children to behave themselves. Teach your children to act like little young ladies and gentlemen and not like whores and harlots roaming up and down the hallways of a hotel room playing freeze tag with their buddies in their pajamas. Stop it. These parents actually should have had the same throat punch at this hotel this weekend. So those are my 2 pet peeves from the weekend. Other than that, I'm in a good mood. Other than that, I'm happy. Don't play your cell phone speakers, put headphones on, or don't play it at all. And if you're going to take your kids to a hotel, please remember to make your child behave themselves at the hotel, whether they're there with a soccer team or not. Anyway, I was amazed at the stupidity and ignorance of these parents at this hotel this weekend, just letting their kids run amok. And I'll tell you another story later about safety issues that I was very scared about these little girls out there. Very scared for them. All right, good to have you here on the show. What's your pet peeve? Stacy says she cannot stop laughing. I don't know what part, that I'm angry, that I got the headphones, the throat punches. I'm not sure, but anyway, I'm glad. BJ says, I agree with everything Jimmy is saying. Say that again. I agree with what Jimmy's saying. I love it when you say that. Ladies and gentlemen, private investigator, sleuth. I'm trying to think of a great creative introduction. Niels Gravilius from LA is on the hotline in the green room, and Niels joins us here on the program. Niels Gravilius, how are you, sir?
I don't think I've ever had a finer day, Mr. Lakey. How are you?
Well, it's a Tuesday, feels like a Monday. I have a couple of pet peeves, some airing of the grievances. I've got that off my chest. I'm feeling better here, feeling better.
Well, that's fantastic. I have a couple of pet peeves myself, Mr. Lakey.
Pray tell, pray tell.
Call waiting. In fact, I had it permanently switched off on my mobile phone.
Oh, yeah.
That's one pet peeve. And then there's the pet peeve of when I text someone who always insists by answering with a phone call. They're not looking to convey information. They want therapy or something like that. And I don't know how to break it to you, Mr. Lakey. I'm not much of a therapist.
I kind of gathered that. I will say, and one of them may be watching. Kim and Sutton on your publicity team. They are wonderful. I love Kim. I love Sutton. I love them both. However, I'll start a conversation on email. The next thing I know, I'm getting a text message, and then I'm getting a phone call, and they're confirming. I'm like, I need this all in one place. Okay, could you put it all in one place? Because I rode the short bus to organizational school, and I sometimes have a helmet and lick the windows. I need it all in one location, and yeah, that bothers me too. Don't switch my text to a phone call or my phone call to an email. Don't do that.
I'm in full agreement with you, Mr. Lakey, and I'll punish them appropriately enough as soon as you and I finish our interaction today.
They bailed me out of a lot of situations. Hey, we have a show tomorrow. Could you get me somebody? They usually say, yeah, Niels Gravilius is available. That's what. No, they don't say. They say with joy and enthusiasm.
I'm very enthusiastic. They had me up at 4 a.m. to go on talk radio in Virginia, but that's okay. I enjoy it. Crime is up early. Why shouldn't I be up early?
Crime doesn't sleep, neither does Niels Gravilius as he sleuths out the solution. All right, here's why I brought you on. First of all, I want to talk crime, and in America, we can do that. But I find it fascinating, this narrative that is starting to develop of transgender. Something seems to be going on. We had a Nashville school shooter that wrote a manifesto. They still won't release it. Turns out that was a transgender person. This trans person in Minnesota had actually journaled and said, I regret transitioning. I wish I wouldn't have, but they were we had a lot of these fire bombings of Teslas, at least in Colorado, were done by transgenders. As a private investigator, are your ears perking up? And do we have a crime spree that's developing somehow at the hands of transgenders in America?
Well, I don't think so, but there's an emotional nexus that we need to look at really quickly here. One of the most telling aspects of the psychopath is his or her need to be treated specially just to feel normal, which goes to pathological egocentricity. So there's a lot of overlap with some of the transvestite community. The reason that they are doing the performative nonsense of cross-dressing and then sometimes mutilating themselves is because they want attention. And then when we consider what makes somebody want to be a mass killer, it's metastatic self-pity and a unique sense of personal grievance, then the tendency to take up events beyond their control, politics, culture, entertainment, whatever, as a personal affront directed at them or some interest group that they claim that they're a part of. And so you have a lot of overlap there between these things. Obviously, every single mass shooter is a psychopath. They have no conscience. They do it because they enjoy it. When they take their own life, it is cognizance of the fact that they've done something uniquely wrong, and their unwillingness to suffer prison time with other people.
Let me ask you, is there some measure when you hear this shooter in Minnesota? Didn't sound like he wanted to make eye contact with the kids he was killing. He knew he was killing kids, but decided to shoot blindly through a stained glass window and just knock off whoever he could knock off. What does that tell you about someone who wants to stand outside from afar, does damage, but doesn't want to have to look anyone in the eye?
A uniquely disordered individual, and I will point out that he spent a lot of time studying what Adam Lanza had done at Sandy Hook. And Adam Lanza was another individual who was autistic, off the charts aggressive, murdered his own mother, things like that. Targeted children specifically, and this guy, Robert Westman, same thing, specifically targeted children, and in his writings expressed a great deal of hostility for some reason at children. And I think that's a way to make the message go farther and harder on the parents in targeting children.
Is there something we should be maybe concerned about, though, with this kind of a story after story about the Antifa arrest, the Tesla bombings, 2 school shootings with transgender? Is it possible? I mean, is it just possible that somehow we have been in such a rush to transgender, to transition people and give what they call gender affirming care, that there's some kind of a fallout and reaction that happens when you pump a body filled with so many different hormones, etc. I mean, you can watch a Viagra, Cialis commercial, a cold and flu commercial, and they give a long list of all the possible side effects of these drugs. Could it be that we have been rushing to gender affirming care, but not really knowing the downfall of putting these things in a person's body and calling it gender affirming care?
Well, Mr. Lakey, I know that you are using the term gender affirming care advisedly. I just
True.
call it chemical mutilation. Yes, I think you're onto something there. Often these hormones make people who are already disordered more aggressive than they normally would be. And when you couple it to the self-pity that arises of people rejecting you as a group or an individual, or seemingly rejecting you, that sort of thing, it's like a formula for unique grievance and metastatic self-pity. So there you go. I'm going to make a prediction for you, Jimmy, because I know you're a very smart man, a wise man paying attention to things in this country. Any minute now, there's going to be some lawyer on your news broadcast at night doing a quick advertisement saying, were you mutilated by your healthcare provider as a juvenile? Did your school district and parents participate? You may be entitled to compensation. Call us to find out.
Yeah.
And Jimmy, you and I are going to pay for that. All of the lawsuits arising of that will come out of the pockets of ratepayers, of the people who pay premiums for health care, people who pay taxes to support school systems, that sort of thing. We absolutely need to get our school systems out of the business of social gerrymandering, which is what they're doing. Our schools should be concentrating on the traditional 3 R's: reading, writing, arithmetic, and potentially educating people as to language and computers, and not else. They shouldn't be substituting for parents. They shouldn't be running cafeterias, that sort of thing. It's a means of buying votes and claiming more control over the American family. And the American family needs to control itself. People need to raise their own children, that sort of thing. That's how we got here.
Yeah. The voice of LA-based private detective Niels Gravilius is my guest. If you're listening later on the audio portion of the show, where thousands of earballs will hear this show by the end of the week, that's Niels Gravilius. We'll tell you more about a website and his upcoming book for next year that you can get and start thinking about for next year. But Niels Gravilius is my guest. Niels, I'm thinking about this Minnesota shooter, and it looks like law enforcement had a tough time reaching out to his parents originally, and then we're hearing that his mother has lawyered up with a criminal defense attorney. As a private detective, private investigator, does it tell you anything that's when someone lawyers up? Is that just good practice, or does this send kind of a red flag to you?
Well, it's It's rather telling, isn't it? Doesn't flight evince guilt in case law and common law and some codified law? Um, maybe it's a sense of fear that the parents are overwhelmed with after realizing that they ratified and rushed their kid along to an intensely destructive path, one that once it got in motion, maybe they were powerless to stop. But they have a red flag law in Minnesota. Both the parents are big progressives. We can presume they voted for Tampon Timmy or Tim Walz, whoever the
Yeah.
governor is of that state. Do you think they ever got on the phone and called the Hennepin County Sheriff and said, our son isn't just doesn't look so good in a skirt, Sheriff. He's started to arm up and he writes the most bizarre things on his weapons, and we're just not sure what to do about it. Maybe you should come by and check him out and offer your professional expertise in this. So they argued that these red flag laws were going to protect public safety, but they don't seem to do much, particularly if nobody ever pulls the string. I mean, it's like a parachute, isn't it, Jimmy? You pull the string when you jump at it.
Yeah. Yeah. The voice of Nils Gravilius. Nils, let's come back to this. I talked about the transgender aspect. There's been times that school shootings have happened. Right down the street from me is Columbine High School. There's been argument about whether they were on psychotropic drugs for ADD, ADHD, etc. Then you have the American left that no matter what happens, it's not about the drugs, the video games, or the transgender. It's about the gun, the gun, the gun. As a private investigator, is there a thread of continuity that weaves all these school shooters together? Because if we can figure out that thread of continuity, can't we start to kind of predict that that person's prone to shoot up a school one day?
Yeah, social media ratification of self-pity, social media ratification of aggression. The way to deal with bullying in school, I mean, they'll always point to Klebold and the other character in the Columbine shooting as having been bullied. It isn't for teachers to necessarily separate children and say, now don't you be extra nice to Jimmy because Jimmy's a weakling, and that's what Jimmy has to do is nut up and go pound Nils in the nose when he acts like a bully. This is normal social discourse for young men, particularly. That's how you sort each other out. We are intensely binary creatures, Mr. Lakey, and competition is part of what is natural to human beings. Since we crawled out of the primordial ooze, we have been competing, and anything that artificially strangles competition is destructive. So when they don't allow kids to duke it out over bullying, that sort of thing, it's a problem. Now, some kids just can't fight back. We know this, but you don't sort it out unless some of these things occur. By artificially trying to, handle this sort of thing and put kids on medications rather than giving them sports to play at recess. That's how we got here. Young people need kinetic activity and lots of it.
I think you just kind of touched on it, but I want to wrap it up with this. Politicians oftentimes will go to the fact of it's the guns or the transgender, whatever. If somebody hired Nils Gravilius and said, "Listen, we want to get partisan politics out of this thing, and we just really want to find out what happened. How does this keep happening?" Where does Nils Gravilius start his private detective work, his investigative work, to kind of get to the bottom of it and say, hey, Minnesota, hey, Colorado, hey, states, here's what's going on and here's why these shootings happen?
I would study the communications and social media history of each of these shooters, and rather than keep it under wraps like they did with the Nashville situation, just hang it all out there for everybody to see the analysis. I have an advantage that most police detectives don't have, in that I don't have a lieutenant looking over my shoulder who has to satisfy some bastard in a suit who's been elected to public office to launder the statistics and pretend there isn't a problem. When there's a problem, you have to go at it head on. There's an old bit of wisdom that you could find in Wales or Scotland, and it is cause no controversies and avoid no controversies.
Yeah, I like it. Nils Gravilius is my guest. Nils, if somebody wants to learn more about you, there's your website on the screen there, graviliuspi.com. GreviliusPI.com. Nils, let me ask you this. You got a book coming out, and is the book a story about Nils Grevilius himself?
Oh, no, I mean, it's about criminality and my work in the Pinkerton service and as a private detective around Los Angeles, a bit of time in the military, that kind of thing. Uh, Look at the fires that occurred in January with Altadena and the Palisades burning to the ground while the mayor of Los Angeles was holding a bacchanal for herself in Ghana. Um, there's a long history in this country of politicians failing and private individuals stepping up to do what government won't do or fails to do. Rick Caruso, who unsuccessfully ran for mayor of Los Angeles, had a private fire force to hold his property under protection during the Palisades fire and suffered very little damage. I've been doing this. I've been doing what the police and sheriff are being paid to do for 33 years in Los Angeles, stamping out crime, getting stolen property, stolen money back, identifying malefactors. If you get in an accident, a hit and split, somebody rear ends you in Los Angeles and takes off, you get the license plate number. The police won't identify the man that did it to you, nor will they go and arrest him unless somebody's been killed. Unless and until there's a dead body, they won't do anything. And the reason that they won't is because the suits, the bastards in suits, don't want them to. So that's, yeah, it's job security for me. But the public suffers, and they shouldn't have to go out of pocket necessarily to hire someone like me to handle their problems.
Speaking of the guys in the suits, I have to ask you, Donald Trump has settled down the crime wave in Washington, D.C. with the presence of the National Guard. He's threatening to do the same in Chicago, but you have the guys in suits, J.B. Pritzker and then the mayor of Chicago, saying, we don't want any help here. I guess they're just content to let people die. I'm not sure where you stand on sending. I'm a little trepidatious about sending in the military into every city in America. However, I'm baffled by these politicians that say we don't need any help when people are dying by the bucket loads every week.
Well, I will say that's a very large suit that Shamu Pritzker is wearing, strutting around the land of Lincoln. Let me tell you, Jimmy. Yeah, well, the military going into places like D.C., they're not going in with machine guns and cutting down people in the street like the crazy leftists are claiming is happening. What the National Guard is doing is they're stabilizing the situation and making it easier for the police to do their job and providing a little bit of supervision, that kind of thing. Mr. Pritzker should be ashamed of himself. That idiot Mayor Brandon Johnson, who replaced Lori Lightfoot, who was also stupid. The two of them have the combined IQ of an earthworm, okay? They're happy to watch their constituents suffer. And what you need to know is that the criminal elite, the criminal element owns equity in the state parties of Illinois and California and New York. They have equity. They own shares in it. They've been sold shares. They trade shares in city, state, and county government in these places.
Nils Grevilius, always a pleasure. GreviliusPI.com. Salute, my sir. I'll talk to you again very soon. Always a pleasure to have you on here. Nils Grevilius, GreviliusPI.com, Los Angeles-based private investigator, Nils Grevilius, GreviliusPI.com. All right, good to have all of you here on the program. Shamu Pritzker. Rich likes that one. Good one. I love it. That's not a bad name for him, Shamu Pritzker. All right, good to have all of you here on the show. Coming up later, we're going to talk to Sherry Cree, our wonderful real estate associate here on the program. We'll talk to Sherry about some of the potential for the housing market and the interest rates. That's coming up. But ladies and gentlemen, it's a Tuesday. Feels like a Monday. And joining us on a Tuesday that feels like a Monday, with the Monday being the holiday, Laura Carno's on the stage. Laura, good morning to you.
That guy was a kick. I love him.
Nils Grevilius, he's one of our faves here. We like Nils. He's a hoot and a toot and a holler. I don't know what that means.
Sure. He's just funny, and he calls you Mr. Lakey, which is part of the adorable part.
It is, and I appreciate that, and I try to require that of all of our guests on the show, but somehow it doesn't work out that way.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so, Jimmy.
It didn't work. All right, let's talk about this school shooter. I thought of The work of Faster Colorado, keeping schools safe in Colorado from nut jobs like this person. Give me your take. You watched it again. Breaking news happened last week. Transgender shooter, whether that matters or not sure, but shows up, kills a bunch of elementary age children at a Catholic school having their first day of school mass, shoots through the windows, blindly murdering a couple of kids, severely injuring others. Your thoughts as someone who studies school safety?
Sure. And so, I've gone back and forth a little bit with some folks this week on social media platforms who've said that armed staff wouldn't have made a difference because the guy shot from the outside. And, I think that represents a misunderstanding of how how broad school safety is. So what we do at Faster Colorado is we train the armed school staff members, but that's not a complete school security package. Um, it's everything. It's perimeter security. It's all kinds of different security. So had there been somebody that patrolled the outside that could have seen him before he started and gotten law enforcement there, if there had been somebody armed on the perimeter who could have stopped him before he started. I mean, so just for your listeners and viewers to know, it's yes, armed staff is important. That's not the whole. That's not the whole thing. And the other thing you brought up is this transgender aspect, and I agree with everybody who's talking about this. Was that the central part of it? We don't know the answer to that question, but because there have been so many, you mentioned the Nashville shooter, one of the STEM school shooters here in Highlands Ranch, Colorado, was also transgender. And there was another one somewhere back east. Trying to remember, it was the person didn't kill mass numbers of people, so it was a little bit less in the news. We have to look at everything. It's not a matter of, well, the person's transgender, so we can't look at that. His manifesto, Jimmy, said, and I think he'd been transitioned for 6 years or something like that. He said, "I'm tired of being trans. My long hair is the last remnant of being trans. I think I'll cut it. I think I'll chop my hair the day of the day of the attack." He called it. So there's something wrapped up in there, and I think for the news to ignore it or investigators to ignore it is not right. The other thing, real quick, in his manifesto, it said he was going between a couple of different places. Almost the same thing happened in Nashville. Should I attack this place or this place? He said about the church, they are less likely to have armed teachers because they are a liberal school. I don't know if they're liberal or not, but it went into his calculations on where to go. Right. And so there are children at a different school that didn't get shot because they had better security, and that was a deterrent. The bad guy said, "I'm not going to go there." Protect your children, church, school, wherever, and make it known to the public that we got armed guards here ready to protect children.
It's amazing. Right afterwards, I was watching the Tim Waltz was at a press conference, but the mayor of Minneapolis was the main one, and said the day of, literally, they're still clearing the bodies out of the school and still getting kids to the hospital. And they said, "Don't you use this as an opportunity to bring up the transgender story." Well, when people die in a shooting like this, I want to bring up the transgender. I want to bring up the chemicals they may be on, whether it's a prescription drug or non-prescription drug. I want to ask if they broke some gun laws or how they ended up getting the guns. Let's look at every aspect of it. But immediately the politicians came out and said immediately, we can't talk about the trans stuff, but they didn't mind talking about the gun stuff.
Right. And I looked at the manifesto that was made available pretty early, especially compared to that Nashville manifesto. And he hated Donald Trump. He hated people of all different ethnicities. He hated Jews. He hated Christians. He hated. And then the next line in the article is, "The motive remains unclear." Okay. But maybe there's some clues there that we might want to take into consideration. But that if this was a straight white Christian male that had done the shooting, that they would, and I say I love law enforcement, and I believe that law enforcement investigators are going to dig into this, but the media is kind of brushing over some of those facts, and to your point, even to the point of saying we don't need to bring up this transgender thing.
Now, supposedly, this Minnesota school, Annunciation Catholic Church, they had asked for help a couple of years before from the state government and said, hey, could you help us with some armed staffing? Not sure why they couldn't provide it themselves. Not sure what their state laws are. But did you hear that they had, I guess, somewhere in their spidey senses said, hey, we might want to have some armed security here. And the state of Minnesota and Tim Walz had denied them?
Yeah, and timing may have been after the Nashville shooting. I'm not quite sure, because I haven't seen the precise timing that they asked. But yes, they did ask the state government, and it was them and other private schools. And a similar kind of thing happens here, where there's all kinds of focus on, and here, being Colorado, where we do our work, there's all kinds of focus on public K-12 schools, and then private schools and religious schools are kind of on their own. I've yet to see a private or religious school that has a school resource officer. I don't know if they can't or they just don't, but there is just the government focuses on government schools, I guess, is a good way to say that. But yeah, we have private and religious schools that come to us and say, we got nothing else. So, we want to arm some staff.
After a shooting like in Minnesota, does your phone start ringing more? Does it take a couple of days, couple of weeks? Or are we just oblivious and people who care about school safety have already called you anyway?
Yeah, so here's what's interesting. Yes, we get a spike in interest, which I'm sad that that's what it takes. But, shame on me if I don't take advantage of that interest to help educate people on a way to keep their kids as safe as possible. But what's interesting, so we've been at this, we're towards the end of our 9th year now. As time has gone on, I'm almost thinking that people are getting more and more numb to this kind of thing happening because the spikes are getting smaller. And that also makes me very sad, because even though we don't want school shootings to happen to create those spikes in interest, we want people, whenever it is, to be thinking about how do we keep kids as safe as they can be. And, we've always talked about these gun-free zones, that, the money in our banks and our members of Congress are protected with armed guards. Why aren't our children? I still don't find a practical answer to this, that the second you go from the bank to the school, all of a sudden, those children are less, in need of protection for some reason. Yet time and time again, it's schools, it's houses of worship that get attacked, and gun-free zones get attacked over and over again.
The voice of Laura Carno, if you're listening to the podcast version of the show, which happens later in the day. Arloa says you're a fave, Laura. So Arloa's kissing up. Arloa, she's kissing up.
She's so sweet. She's always
so
sweet.
Yeah, always so sweet. Yeah. Laura Carno, my guest, if you're listening later in the program. And if you're not on the podcast, go to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart. And again, thousands of ear holes will hear this show by the end of the week. And we love to know that that's Laura Carno, fastercolorado.org. Laura, another story that you sent me that I find interesting, is not getting a lot of media attention, is the fact that there seems to be some changes ever so quietly and subtly by Robert F. Kennedy Jr. With the Food and Drug Administration, the CDC. It looks like they're removing some of the emergency authorization behind some vaccines, issuing statements the government is not your doctor. President Trump continues, though, to kind of talk about Operation Warp Speed and how great it was and how it saved lives. A lot of different perspectives on that old booger cootie virus shot. But what's Robert F. Kennedy Jr. up to?
Yeah, so I think this is interesting, and I think it's tied to the last topic, that we deserve to know everything. We don't need information filtered through government minders and then to be told here's what you should be thinking about this. If vaccines are safe, show me the data. If vaccines are not safe, show me the data. But we had Marty McCary on the news this weekend. I think hinting at what's to come this week, saying, the data needs to be out there. The government is not your doctor. And you and I have talked so much about this topic since the COVID lockdowns that, and I said over and over again, I'm old enough to remember when medical decisions are between a woman and her doctor. I don't want the government making decisions. Remember, there was, for a time period, they were trying to do a vaccine mandate, and some employers had vaccine mandates. I don't want the government in between me and my doctor. That is a private relationship, and the government doesn't know anything about me and my medical situation. My doctor does. And so this is all kind of coming full circle. The truth that that Donald Trump put out, because he doesn't do Twitter anymore, he did talk about Operation Warp Speed, but then at the end of that post, he said something to the effect of, but if it's not true, we all need to know it. And so, okay, so is there something going to come out? And so I think it's just going to be very interesting. Like, they dropped lots of hints over the 3-day weekend, maybe to see how people were responding. The other thing I saw all over Twitter this weekend was about the hepatitis B vaccine. That why is it required for infants? And I'm not advocating one way or another. Why is it required for infants when it has a 6 to 7 year efficacy, and the things that are most likely to get you Hep B, children are not engaging in? And so why is this on the schedule? So I love that every question is being asked. If it should be on the childhood vaccine schedule, great. If it shouldn't, great. It should be up to people to make that decision, seeing all of the facts.
I've asked that about Hep B shots for a long time, and but if you dared to even ask the questions, you were dubbed a conspiracy theorist because you weren't taking everything hook, line, and sinker. And I think it's just smart as a society, whether it's coming from Trump or Biden, we ought to be able to question everything. And just because the government tells us something does not mean it's true. Whether your person's in the White House or your person's not in the White House, it doesn't mean it's true. Question everything. I think that's healthy.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And, whether it's, am I getting all of the information that I need to from the news, which, working in politics, if you have been a part of a story and then you see that story reported in the paper, it really opens your eyes to say, how is this even the same thing? That's happening, whether it's in the medical world, the school shooting world, wherever you're getting your news, triangulate it and figure out if you're getting the whole scoop.
Laura Carno, I have a question of the day real quick. I'm running out of time. I got Sherry Creed to come on here, but I got to ask you pet peeves. My pet peeves over the weekend, I've made known. Number one, anybody listening in a public forum, airplanes or waiting room, and you have your volume on your phone, watching your TikTok, watching your Instagram, stop it. We don't want to hear it. Put your headphones on or don't watch it. Pet peeve number one. Or staying in a hotel with your youngsters and they're running around with their soccer team playing hide and seek in the hallway at 11 o'clock at night, jumping off furniture. These parents are pussified, wussified idiots, and they should probably be throat punched and maybe have their kids taken away from them. I don't know. I'm just a little harsh here. But those are two of my pet peeves. Any thoughts?
Those are good ones. Yes. Driving the speed limit in the left lane.
Oh, you're a lawbreaker. Lawlessness.
No, I might be going 66, but if you're going 60, if somebody's passing you, if you're in the left lane and people are passing you, that's a you problem.
Yeah, get out of the left lane unless you're passing people. Laura Carno riding dirty. That's what she's doing.
Well, I got places to be.
You got to be important like that. Laura Carno, always a pleasure. FasterColorado.org. Keep the school kids safe in the schools. Help her out. FasterColorado.org. If you're a public or private or institution that takes care of kids, talk to them. See how they can make sure that your kids stay safe. FasterColorado.org. Laura Carno, riding dirty on a Tuesday, September the 2nd. All right, good to have you here. Don't forget, Friday we will be off the air. for a day. It'll be 9th annual charity golf event for Rivers Promise. It's looking good. It's going to be a full course. It's going to be fun. Not totally full. We got a couple more spaces available, but it's going to be a hot and fun day. Hot meaning sizzle, but not the temperature is going to be great. Riverspromise.org, riverspromise.org. If you're there, look up Sherry Cree. You hear me talk about her all the time. She's going to be golfing. She's got a couple of foursomes going out with her. Sherry, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Good to have you back. For those who don't know, homeswithsherry.com, homeswithsherry.com. Sherry, let's talk here. First of all, we're entering the month of September, and I'll give a general question, then we'll get specific. Month of September, what happens in the market? What shifts now that people kind of think summer's behind us? What do we do?
Well, after the Labor Day weekend, the fall market slowly starts. And what we are seeing in the market right now is everybody's anticipating Federal Reserve announcing interest rate cut, which should trickle down to mortgage rate cut. So everybody's expecting that. So what people don't know is loan companies, mortgage lenders, they are already offering slightly lower interest rate to buyers to capture the business because loans not going to close tomorrow. So if you're a buyer on the fence and then say, I'm going to wait till rates to go down and then I will start writing in an offer, you are a little bit behind. And I didn't know that lenders are offering the lower rate ahead of actual rate going down based on the their projection. So, and if you're a seller and say, hey, nobody's, active, buyers are not active, and then they are, not writing in an offer and, feeling like a really desperate to, it's not happening, So the seller it might be a good time to get the property on the market for the fall market buyers that who typically have goals to be in a new home before the holidays.
So if somebody's out there on the fence going, we got to wait for the interest rates to come down, then I'm going to make my move. A lot of banking and lending institutions have already in expectation lowered those rates because they know that they're not going to close that deal tomorrow. So they're already offering that lower rate. And so if you're a buyer, you might want to get in here before everybody else gets in the buyer's market because you can save on the interest rate and maybe not pay as much for the house.
Yes, correct. So, and then if you really wait till, assuming the lower interest rate happens, I don't know how much volume of buyers are coming back into the market. And then if it's significant, then there's going to be a competition. So still in any market, appealing property, well-priced for the market, they are selling. And then some of them are generating multiple offers in any market. So as a seller, you can price your listing to be just below market value, and then you can strategically create just a micro market of higher demand versus, the supply.
You sent me a note about a house, that property you have coming up that's currently off market, and it's going to go on market. And you said it's a great opportunity for house hacking. And I said, well, what the heck is house hacking? Everybody stand by. Definition for Sherry Cree. What is house hacking?
Yes, so house hacking is commonly used by entry-level real estate investors. Generally just younger or less experienced. They don't have a huge cash fund to build your rental portfolio. So again, as we get older, we tend to become less tolerant of roommate situation. But if you're young and starting and then have a goal to build your rental, empire, you purchase a home as an owner occupant for your own home. And then you strategically target house with many bedrooms. So if you can find affordable home with 5 bedrooms, 6 bedrooms, and then you're going to rent out a room. Now, it's very different from being a landlord and buying rental properties because it is your own home. So you are not subject to tenant landlord law that, that restricts a lot of the landlord abilities because it's your home. You're allowing somebody to stay at, at the bedroom. So if you can get, let's say 5-bedroom home as an owner occupant, and rent out 4 bedrooms to 4 different individuals. And if you can get $1,000 rent, that's the $4,000 rental income that you look into. And over time, let's say you do that for a year or 2 years, you build equity, and you can pull equity out by refinancing or HELOC, whatever that is, and then use that as a down payment for next house that you're going to buy as an owner occupant. And then you're going to move out of it. You're going to buy a new home with 5 bedrooms and rent it out to four individuals. So this is a quick and feasible way for typically younger people, because I frankly don't want to do that. But to get into home ownership, but at the same time generate income, and then you keep building the income producing properties as the homeowner.
Jeff puts a question up on the YouTube. It's coming on the screen. Any idea when the interest rates will actually come down? I'm guessing this month they're going to make an announcement that the interest rates overall and then the mortgage rates will adjust accordingly. Is that correct? This September is when they're expecting the first cut?
Yes, the mid-September. Yeah, that's not necessarily like a mortgage rate, but it's just the Federal Reserve, cutting the rate.
It all trickles down around and it all adjusts. Sherry, what I'm hearing you say is every time we talk, whether it's in the springtime or the fall time, there's different windows of opportunity for buying or selling real estate. And we just closed the summer market. Now we're beginning this fall window, which we talked about last time. And then you've got the holiday season. Then you've got first of the year spring. I mean, these windows come and go quickly. It's kind of important to know which window you want to jump through. You don't want to wait till the window hits and go, well, let's analyze this. Now's the time to know exactly when it is you're ready to make the move. Am I correct? The windows are very short, but there's a bunch of them throughout the year.
Yes. And then, there's no the time house stops selling. It's always selling, but it's just amount of buyers and sellers, the inventory of homes for sale, and then, volume of buyers that are looking to buy. So you just need to be aware of those seasonalities, and then position your whether you're listing the home or you're looking to buy a home. You just need to be aware of dynamics. And what I find interesting is in the residential real estate market, it's very emotional. So it's kind of like stock market, like people make decisions very emotionally. So if you are just following a trend, everybody's now buying a house because it's a low rate, I should buy a house, and then you jump into the market, and then you have to compete with volume of buyers, and it requires you to pay over 50 grand, 100 grand over asking. That was the hot sellers market. And then now the interest rate coming down, and then those people are complaining about, interest rate rose. And then those people complain about, interest rates too high, I cannot buy. But now you have less competition, and then increasing inventory, you are in a position to negotiate for seller concession to buy down interest rate without paying 50 grand over asking. You can maybe get 30 grand under asking. So it's a very dynamic market, and it is really important to know, like you said, the window of opportunities and what the sellers are doing, what the buyers are doing. with the guidance of real estate professional.
The key is you need a real estate professional to kind of know, because you may think, well, it's not the time to buy. The interest rates have gone up. And you talk to a professional like yourself, you're like, well, hold on now. It could be a perfect time to buy. You're going to get the house for less money, and they're going to be giving some concessions. You're going to get that interest rate low. So just because it's the front page of the headline doesn't mean you should avoid real estate buying and selling. You got to talk to a real estate professional like Sherry Cree. Sherry, homeswithsherry.com. Folks can give you a call. You're happy to talk through the seasonality of it all. If they're not ready for the fall window, talk to them about the spring window. It's good to start planning ahead on these things so that you know exactly what you're ready to do and when you're ready to do it.
Yes. And then one thing I always tell my clients is with the residential real estate, nobody buys or sells just for numbers, like a financial reasons. It's always life involved. So the best time to buy is when your life situation is best, optimized, that, you need to, move from housing arrangement that is not in alignment with your lifestyle to something different, or getting into home ownership, or selling the house and then downsizing. It's a really important to make decision based on your life, individual life, so highly individualized. And then you employ a real estate professionals, because our job is not to make a decision when you should do what. Our job is to know the market and then guide our clients to optimize the market conditions to enable them to do what they want to do with their lives.
Homeswithsherry.com. That's her website. We'll talk again. Starting next week, we'll get onto a Friday schedule, but because my Fridays have been messed up the last 2 weeks, this has been Tuesday, and last week was Tuesday. Next week, we'll go to Fridays, and it'll be a regular segment with Sherry Cree. Homeswithsherry.com. Sherry, I'll see you Friday, the golf tournament, and see if you can win this thing.
I'm looking forward to it.
You got a homeswithsherry.com, homeswithsherry.com. If you're at the golf course on Friday at the golf tournament, the 9th annual Rivers Promise Golf event, make sure you say hi to Sherry Cree, as she'll be touting around there her golf swing and her golf ability. And she could be a sleeper. She could be a sleeper if you're waging bets on this whole thing. You never know. Sherry Cree coming out swinging with that golf club. Homeswithsherry.com. Homeswithsherry.com. All right, we've done a whole segment here about pet peeves on the program. And I have some pet peeves, and I like to log those as kind of like the airing of the grievances. Jim says his answer is bicyclists blowing through stop signs and red lights without even slowing down, testing Darwin's theory. I wouldn't say it rises to a full pet peeve, but it is a peeve. Is when I see kids riding about town, especially crossing a busy road and a cross section at a crosswalk, and they don't walk. You're supposed to walk your bicycle across, right? You're not supposed to ride it across. You're supposed to walk it across. That seems to be a lost art of bike safety. Walk across the big intersections, especially get your ass off the bike and walk the thing across. Did that go away? Did that law change? No, I see little kids sometimes out summertime, and they'll be crossing main streets, and they push the crosswalk, but they're riding across it, and I don't like that. I don't like the odds of that. So anyway, another pet peeve by bicyclists. Rich says, having someone who has never been responsible for another human being 24/7 telling me how I should raise my kids. And another one is the same as yours, parents that don't control their kids. Listen, I was at the travel hotel this weekend for 4 nights, and most of those 4 nights were weekends. And because of that, anybody who's ever done travel sports or travel things, you know that there's teams that go through these hotels like the Courtyard by Marriott, the Hampton Inn, these mid-rise chain hotels. And I happened to be staying at a Courtyard by Marriott over the weekend, taking care of my son. He stayed at the hotel room with me. I made sure he had medicines after his surgery, and took him back to his apartment and dorm yesterday. So, and then I flew back. But I am telling you, the people roaming the hallways of that hotel, these children up and down. I think it was a girls' soccer team. And the lack of care by these parents sitting in the lobby bar wasn't even open. Like these people brought their own booze in, drinking beer and sipping Shirley Temples or whatever they're doing. And their kids are running amok, jumping on furniture, screaming to the top of their lungs, driving the hotel staff crazy. And I wanted to punch someone in the throat. I've never actually punched someone in the throat, but I was getting very close this weekend. And I felt bad for the people at that beautiful brand new Courtyard by Marriott that I was staying at, that it was soiled by such idiotic parents. So there's one of my pet peeves. Don't let your kid act like an animal in public, whether they're out with their team or whatever. I believe in kids acting like finely trained men and women, ladies and gentlemen, training to be ladies and gentlemen. And it doesn't mean the kids can't be kids, but it doesn't mean if are they allowed to jump on your furniture at your house? Good. Keep them at your house. Don't let them jump up and down the furniture in the lobby of the hotel room. Jeff has a question of the day answer. His pet peeve, pants worn down to the knees, people talking out loud on their phones, wearing earbuds, motorcycles, lane filtering. I have another pet peeve, speaking of earbuds. Got a couple of friends that mid-sentence, if they take a call, they won't say, "Excuse me, may I take this call?" They will, mid-conversation with you, hit their earbuds and say, "Hey, how's it going?" And you think they're talking to you. That is the rudest damn thing ever when you do that. Don't do that. If you're going to interrupt our private conversation with a phone call, you owe it to me out of respect to say, "Excuse me, may I take this call?" And if you don't have the courage or the cojones to do that, then you should not be seen in public ever again, because you're a shameless asswipe is what you are. Boy, I've got to get these things. Pet peeves are good for us, aren't they? The airing of the grievances. If you don't have the courage or the courtesy to say, "Excuse me, phone call. Hello," you do that. If you're just going to interrupt mid-conversation, that is rude, and that is insufferable, and it's no reason, a very good reason, you have no friends, and you shouldn't have any ever again. Ever again, you should have no friends. And listen, I'm telling you, these are just pet peeves that I have, and everybody's got something that gets under their skin. And I'll tell you, you know what else gets under my skin? While I'm just venting my spleen here, people who recline and coach. If you're in your coach seat, you need to know you're all stuffed in there like frickin' sardines. Don't recline. That 2 inches is not going to cause you near as much pleasure as it causes the person behind you pain. It ain't a nap time. If you're not tired enough to sleep straight up in that stiff board, then just keep your ass awake and read a book. Don't recline when you're sitting in coach. Let me say that pet peeve. Don't recline when you're sitting in coach. I will say this again. Don't recline when you're sitting in coach. You want to sit in first class? Then you have the right to recline. You want to sit in premium economy? Then you've earned the right to recline. But if you're in coach and you're in there like a sardine, that 1 inch that you're going to recline is not near as good for you as it is a pain in the butt for the person behind you. Airing of the grievances. Shyla says her pet peeve is turn signals that never turn green, only flash yellow. There's a signal that I tend to turn at quite regularly, it seems, and it's never a solid green left turn. It's always a flashing yellow turn. And I don't know why they don't at least for 10 seconds give us a solid green, but I hate that as well. Shyla, I hear you. All right, your pet peeves of the day. We love to hear all of your pet peeves. It's just good to get them off your chest. And next time you're around me, if you do all of the above, Todd's like, "I'm right on everything." Say it again, Todd. I'm correct on all my pet peeves. No, it just drove me crazy. As at an airport, I'm sitting in the waiting area of the airport. My flight was slightly delayed yesterday, and people were watching shows and I don't think they're full movies, but they were like memes and reels and TikTok videos, and they're watching them on their phones with their speakers on. I'm like, really? Do we have to hear this? I don't really care. And if you're not going to show it to everyone, don't make me listen to it. It is rude. If you don't have headphones, then do not play things on your speaker out loud on your phone, period. The end. That's it. And if you do, you should be punched in the throat, have your phone confiscated, given to someone who actually is responsible for using it, and you should get a Nokia or Motorola flip phone for the rest of your life. That is your banishment. Flip phone for you. And if you're at the travel hotel and you're letting your kids run the hallway late at night, I hate to say it, but you should probably, Child Protective Services should come in because you're an idiot parent. I feel very strongly about these things, Delilah. Can you tell? I'm like going nuclear on all of them. All right, Arloa just typed in a novel. I think this is her doctoral thesis. It's a thesis when it covers my face, and I got a big face. Let's read Arloa's together because she thinks we're going to recite this like the Gettysburg Address. I love you, Arloa. Maybe silly, but one of my pet peeves is holding open the clear glass door in the frozen food aisle just to stand there and see what's behind the door. That comes from our years of owning a Cold Stone where I made all the cakes and holding that door open so long then that it made it fog up, not to mention extra wear on the compressor of the cakes on display. So Arloa says if you're going to be, it's a good point. Those are solid clear glasses for a reason. Look through the glass, and then open when you're ready to take your frozen potatoes or your frozen Marie Callender dinner, whatever it is you're frozen. Pick it before you get in there and then just knock it off. Close the dang door. Arloa, that is a great observation. I appreciate it. It was rather wordy. It was rather wordy, but Arloa, we give forgiveness here. I asked earlier, are there any men living in Texas and that listen in Texas? Because we have all these ladies that reply from Texas. And Arloa said her husband listens, but she doesn't let him speak. She keeps him pretty much hellbound and keeps us. Yeah, she says, no, thank you. Arloa says, thank you. All right. Hey, Friday is a great day. It's going to be our 9th annual charity golf event. And I mean this sincerely. There is actually a little bit of space for you, a couple more spaces for a couple more sponsorships. We'd love to have you. Listen, this is our biggest fundraiser of the year for Rivers Promise. And this really helps us get across the finish line. We count on this date every year. And there's a reason it's the same time every year. It's always the Friday after Labor Day. It's hard to get a charity golf event on a Friday. I have a friend that did golf tournaments for years for an organization, a big Christian organization. He said, you get better rates than I do. And I had to go on Mondays. So we do our best to keep it on a Friday because that's just a fun time to do a golf tournament. But I also have to tell you this, it's also very spectacular that the first week of September, September 4th and 5th, are actually what we call in my house Gotcha Day. That's the day that I actually left an orphanage with my son and headed back to the United States after almost 2 years of working on an adoption. And so these are very significant times for me. Early September, that is the anniversary of adopting my son. And it's a great week. It's a very stressful week putting this event together. Very busy week, but it's also a great week of celebrating Gotcha Day with my son and his anniversary of actually coming into America and being officially adopted. That all being said, if you cannot attend, would you please pray and consider making a donation to Rivers Promise? You can participate as our largest fundraising event of the year. We do 2 major fundraising events. We do our casino night in the spring, which we just resumed, and that actually happens to correspond with the dates of my first trip to Rwanda. So that's kind of magical how that happened. And then this first early September happens to be the anniversary of the adoption and Gotcha Day. If you could make a donation at any amount to Rivers Promise, we appreciate you doing that. I've said this earlier. We have a lot of kids that are sponsored, a lot of kids in our school that are not sponsored. And because of that, we've been putting a lot of money, you heard us talking about food over and over again, food for school, food for the kids. And we've been putting a lot of our money towards our food shortage. And because of that, not holding as much back. Anyway, we some of the non-sponsored kids we need to replace school uniforms. They start school 1 week from yesterday. And I need to replace a bunch of uniforms for non-sponsored kids. And if you'd like to just help with that, something practical you could help with is $10. $10 buys a kid the uniform. And when you buy a kid a uniform at our school, they're not sponsored, but you know what you're also doing? You're not just buying them a school, you're buying them a wardrobe because a lot of these kids had no clothes, literally no clothes when we showed up there. And this is their only set of clothing. I've taken them on field trips before with other school kids, and I'm going, why do our school kids' uniforms look so bad? And it's because our kids are so poor, they would never attend school, that once we give them a school uniform, that's pretty much their Sunday go to meeting clothes. That's their school going clothes. That's their play clothes. They have no other option. So it's $10 to buy a uniform for a kid that's non-sponsored. And we could use your help with that this week. That could be a way that you contribute. Speaking of non-sponsored kids, speaking of needs, if you want to help a kid for $10, that's a uniform. I'm going to put practical terms on it as you make a consideration to donate. Our biggest fundraising week of the year for our fundraising event. $30 buys a child 2 meals a day for an entire month, and it's $1 a day to feed a child, and you can help out. So again, $30 to feed a kid for a month, $10 you can put a kid in a uniform for the school year for 12 months, and $65 sponsors a kid, sends them to school, provides the food, and gets that uniform as well. $65 a month. So you get the idea. Of anywhere from $10, maybe you can only do a half a uniform. $5 you get. I try to make this as practical as possible, because sometimes people feel like I am not going to make a difference because I don't have $100 or $5,000 or $500 or $10,000. I can't make the big monthly donation. That's okay. But would you consider this week participating? We have a couple of new sponsors, I think, that came in last week. I got to get those out to Africa. I got to review that. I was traveling. I'll get all those reviewed. And if you were one of those people that sponsored a child on our website, that's great. We're going to have 30 more kids added to the website this week. Our new kindergarten class has been introduced, starting kindergarten. Listen, everything you do helps us help kids, and that's what this is all about. And again, from $10 to buy a uniform, $30 for 2 meals a day, and just sponsor the kid outright for $65 a month. And whether it's a one-time gift or a monthly fee, monthly donation, your help is appreciated. And if you want to participate in the golf course, golf fun, even if you're not there, just go to riverspromise.org or riverspromise.com and go to the golf page, and you can register and or sponsor or make a general donation, and you can add the comment golf. But this is our biggest fundraising event of the year, and we really need all of you to pitch in, and we appreciate you doing so. So if you can give $5, $10, $500, $1,000, $1,000, that's 1,000. So I'm pretty smart like that. If you can help us, we'd love to do that. All right. Jeff has a pet peeve on the YouTube. He says, removing shoes at the airport, I feel the need for a shower to get all the way through, and people getting redressed at their basket. You know, that's something that, again, I don't take my shoes off because I do the pre-check and stuff. And I think they're getting rid of the shoes anyway, where you have to do it. But when your stuff comes through security, don't stand right there. Get to the end of the conveyor belt and then get yourself redressed, or better yet, get away from the conveyor belt altogether. When your luggage comes through the security chute, don't just stand there. Move on down with your luggage. That's another pet peeve. People just are not considerate of those around them. That's why they listen to their audio on their phone. They're thinking everybody. It's all a very selfish generation. And I wish we could get back to being more considerate of others and less selfish and more selfless. And Jeff, that is a great one. People at the security line standing there as if they're the only one on the security line, and they could move their carcass out of the way while you wait for your bags to come through the conveyor belt. That's a great one, Jeff. And again, it goes back to being selfish. So don't be selfish, my friends. Be selfless, and the world would be a much better place if we all did that. All right, riverspromise.org, riverspromise.com. Don't forget Sherry Cree, great interview with her. If you missed any portion of the program, don't forget you can go to all the audio podcast platforms, Spotify, iHeart, Podbean, all you get Apple Podcasts, etc. And you can listen to the show over and over and over again. Download, listen, like, and this is on your favorite podcast platform. Just look up Jimmy Lakey Unleashed. You can find it there. All right, glad to have you on the program. Thanks for listening today. Don't forget, we only have 2 more shows this week. We'll take Friday off for the golf tournament. Riverspromise.org, riverspromise.com. Love to have you tuned in. We'd love to have you tuned in at the golf course and check it out. Yeah, it's going to be a fun day Friday, and you can participate. Tomorrow, I'm going to go through some of the people that have sponsored a child recently. Go through some of you that make donations today. $10 at the uniform for a year. $30 is 2 meals a day for a month. $65 a month sends a kid to school, whether you do 1 month or 12 months. You get the idea. It's our biggest fundraising event of the year on Friday, and I'd like to go into this thing strong. So if you can do $10 today, do it. And by the way, if you're going to drop a check in the mail, some of you like to do that, would you send us an email, say, hey, I'm sending a check for this amount, watch for it. That way we can get it counted in the totals heading into Friday. Address is on the website, riverspromise.com, riverspromise.org. Until we meet again tomorrow morning, happy Tuesday. Feels like a Monday. May God bless you. May God bless America. We got to do the meme roulette. Stop it. We got to do meme roulette. We didn't do meme roulette. Nobody reminded me. Oh, hell's bells. Ladies and gentlemen, that was a false alarm. You ready? Teased you, didn't I? Round and round the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from? No, we got to get an introduction for that thing. Is it true that Trump divided this country? He separated those with common sense from those who suffer from stupidity. Yeah, it's true. Trump divided the country. Round and round the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from? No one knows. My mama said. It's Adam Sandler on the screen. The left is always mad because their women are so ugly. Dudes had to take their place. All you got to do is watch The View and you realize, you'd rather, sometimes you look at those women and go, yeah, I'll take the transgender. Nobody ever said that. Maybe just me. Round and around the globe we go. Let's Joy Behar the trans. Which one do you want? Round and around the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from? No one know. I told a teenager today that when I was his age, I got 10 CDs for a penny in the mail. I'm not sure if he thinks I'm lying about what a CD is, or what a penny is, or what the mail is. Maybe he's all confused by all three. That's probably true. The teenager may be confused by all three. Round and round the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from? No one knows. When mom was sick, so dad dressed me for picture day. You got to see it. If you got to zoom in on it, it's the PBR shirt, Pabst Blue Ribbon. The Stellar beer, that is, the PBRs. Yeah, there you go. Dad dressed you for picture day. Round and round the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from? Still back on the transgender. That could have been a trans right there. You show me an American ghetto and I'll show you a place where Democrats are in power. That's not wrong. That's right. That's correct. Trying to think of one. No, can't think. Yep, that's what it is. Round and round the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from? No one knows. When the FBI raids Mar-a-Lago, that's what old John Bolton, the walrus looks like. When the FBI raids your house, that's what he looks like. Yeah, John, I got to bring up my photo of John Bolton and me. I've got it somewhere around here. I'll bring it out. Maybe we should burn it on the show. I was embarrassed to take it back in the day. I actually wasn't. I was shameless. Hey, take a photo of me, John. Round and around the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from? No one knows. Mexican word of the day, Uganda. Uganda get deported again. There's Donald Trump in a sombrero. The ultimate of cultural appropriation. Roll the R's. Round and around the globe we go. Where we had a dud. Where we steal the memes from? No one knows. Ladies and gentlemen, we have milked the meme machine try, which means the program is over. And I appreciate all of you tuning in. Now we can start the bumper music that says rock and roll. Exit accordingly. Sorry, I almost forgot the meme roulette. Did someone call me the Pillsbury Doughboy in the chat room today? This person shall be banned. I don't even eat cookies. Yeah, I think they called me the Pillsbury. I saw it in the corner of my eye. Someone called me a Pillsbury Doughboy. Yeah, might be time to lose some weight, I guess, huh? Yeah. Everybody. Yeah, there it is. Laura. Oh, it's Jeff. We should have known such comments. Laura's adorable. You're incorrigible. Jimmy's slightly adorable. Like the Pillsbury Doughboy. Hey, Delilah, can you block him? Please, por favor. I am Jim Lakey. Let me say it again. Make a donation. riverspromise.org. Biggest fundraising event of the year for us. God bless you. God bless America. I'm Jimmy Lakey. I'm out of here.